Welcome everyone, Butley here. I'm here with Patch. How are you, Patch?
I am Patch.
You are Patch. We're looking
Hello.
at, and I need to say it before it goes off the screen because I'm bad at pronunciations. But we're playing Niche, a genetic survival game. This is our reasonably new series, Just 30, where we take 30 minutes of a video game and we try and decide if that's long enough to decide if it's good, if it's enough to keep us interested to keep playing, or if we've seen enough of the game to make that call. So hopefully that's informative and gives people a different kind of review if you're sort of looking at games and deciding, do I want to get into this? Before we get too far though, I just want to point to these graphics. Like, how beautiful does this game look?
Oh yeah, I was amazed when I first opened this up and this was the first cutscene. Amazed for a bit, because some of it is like I don't know if I think it's called tweening or something. Like it's just manipulating an object that's already there. You'll probably see that on my screen in a minute, where it's just the guy standing there, and like bits of his body sort of shape and twist to fit what they're trying to animate.
I think it fits the style a little bit though. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
And it's
I
kind of
was,
an
I was-
emotional start to a fairly, I don't know, interesting sort of game. I was just like, I
yeah,
was like, I think I need to turn off and take a minute after that intro.
yeah. And then the in-game graphics appear, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah, it's not quite as nice.
Don't get me wrong, I had seen screenshots, but yeah, it's the first impression of the game. The cinematic was very pretty, and then this, um, which is a little bit,
Fell off the wagon fast.
yeah. Are we going to do our yes, no, maybe so
Yeah,
straight
let's
away,
start
or are we
straight
going to
off the
talk?
bat. I think we should. Let's start. If people only
Yep.
want to watch 5 minutes of this, that's totally they're entitled to. So,
Yep.
Patch, would you recommend this game after 30 minutes?
No.
No.
No. I would not.
I-
There is a caveat, but
Okay.
we'll get to that.
See, I'm gonna say yes,
Okay.
but we can express why. So, first up though, let's go to the second question, and then we'll spin back around. So, do you think
Yep.
30 minutes has given you enough of the game to help, say you had to make your opinion after 3 hours and after 30 minutes that you just did? Do you think you would have the same impression, or has the game shown you enough stuff that you're like, no, I kind of already know that I'm not going to recommend this, or maybe after 3 hours I've seen enough to recommend it? Would your opinion change is what I'm going for.
I would say I've seen enough of the game that my opinion wouldn't change, but I know that there's going to be more. Like I know that I haven't experienced and seen everything in this game. I can tell that from like straight away,
But you
and you'll probably
think
see
you've
why
seen-
later on.
But you think you've
I've
probably
seen
seen
enough.
enough to know if you're going to like it personally?
Yes,
Because I get the
definitely.
feeling that's where you're going with this, right?
Yeah.
Alright, do you want to elaborate for the folks at home?
Well, I don't know. I can't really explain it at this point. It's sort of the game in itself is a game about survival, and not just survival, but also about, I guess, breeding and DNA lines, so to speak, and about cultivating these creatures and taking them out into these different little environments and seeing how well they can survive.
It's a bit
Um,
of a like an evolution game, is how I
Yeah.
kind of saw it. And not evolution. Well, I guess so. Like the way that you adapt and change around your surroundings and stuff.
Yeah. And in the tutorial, well, the tutorial left off a bad impression to start with. I didn't feel like I was very well informed by the tutorial on how to successfully play the game. I felt like I was given the bare minimum, like, this is how you interact with the environment, but
Oh.
not what you need to do to successfully survive and continue. It felt very bare bones. It's just those little text boxes. There's no voice. There's no anything like that, and you just sort of have to press buttons and try things. But largely, it's up to you to sort of explore and see what all the different buttons do. The game doesn't really represent, like, it doesn't tell you.
Well, you'll find.
Sorry.
Here's the funny thing. see how you so you're top screen and I'm bottom
Yes,
screen.
I am
So
the top screen.
see how you found your little fox friend there.
Yeah.
What you'll notice is because the maps are procedurally generated based on a few parameters. We got different maps. Well,
Yeah.
I didn't fully understand this game going in, and so the tooltip from the tutorial said go and make a friend and offer them food, right? And so you'll see here me clicking on these little mole people and stuff, trying to offer them food to join, because it just said join your tribe, and I didn't know it meant like a pack of like lions and stuff. So I was just like, every animal I find, I'm going to talk to it, and then I ended up just getting food. And what you'll actually find is I progressed to the next area without finding the companion in the reeds here.
And so
I totally, I didn't even, like, I was like, is the tutorial going to teach me anything else?
Yeah, so that was definitely a bad impression, was this tutorial. I fumbled around, like, trying to figure out how to do a nest. Actually build a nest and destroy it, because it didn't explain to me. Like, I just clicked quickly, and that is my fault. But you build a nest, and there's a button to immediately destroy the nest, where the nest was. And I was just clicked to build the nest, and then I clicked again, and oops, I destroyed it.
This
and
game,
that was
it probably
bothering
almost
me.
flows a little too quickly like that. I found I spent a lot of time clicking the next turn button, and my turns were taking like 2 seconds, and it takes longer for me to actually go and click the turn button and come back and do another turn.
Well, I'll tell you about my video. My side of things is after I did the tutorial up to just a little bit past this, and I think I made a mistake in doing that. I was sort of just clicking around and things, and it didn't end well. So I went and tried to do a sandbox just to see what the experience would be like at a slightly more advanced level than the tutorial, to see what would come up. Because I also didn't know what the story would really bring. Like, after this island, I tried to sort of continue and didn't really give me much of a prompting to do anything. It was just more of
like a campaign.
Yeah, keep going. And I was like, oh, okay, what's, to what purpose? And ultimately I sort of didn't see the appeal in that. It feels like this would be a good thing to have, like, okay, your objective this time is there's a big bear and you need to build up a tribe capable of killing this big bear, like that'd be a cool objective, and then you set out to do that.
It's
but
kind of too sandboxy, you're saying?
Yeah, it's too undirected. There's a lot of games where you can just play a sandbox, and that's okay, but typically, like, a sandbox you should still be able to set some sort of a win condition. A lot of, like, there are so many games that have this sort of mode, and generally speaking, there is a way to set a win condition even in a sandbox mode. Or, I don't know, I feel like this is almost a new age thing. This game feels like it should have come out in the late 90s, if you know what I mean. It feels like Roller Coaster Tycoon. It feels like
the graphics element.
Yeah, it feels like it should have been one of those games where it was like there was a bit of a thought going on here, and it could have been really cool, and it could have had these nice cartooning graphics to appeal to, whoever. But it just didn't end up playing out that way. And
it's a tough
and so
one. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like
this is missed potential.
Actually, I feel like it sets out to do what it achieves what it set out to do. But whether that as a concept, like you say, is interesting with the landscape of games these days and so many options, is this better than like any other kind of survival game? Like, what about one that isn't turn-based?
As you can see, I'm in the water and I didn't realize, because the indication of where things are wasn't clear without moving the camera.
Yeah,
which is partly my fault, so I can't really blame the game for that.
I will say, just while we're on the point of did 30 minutes show you enough, I would say no. Like, even though I'm recommending the game, I can clearly tell that I haven't really seen. I mean, my story, unlike yours, is I played the campaign because I messed up the tutorial from like day dot by not finding that first companion. I just didn't get far, and then I played a sandbox. Just wait, I just played a sandbox,
sure.
And then then I didn't do well at that either. And then I went back to the tutorial because I figured it's the only way I'm going to meet new elements of this game.
Yeah, so in my version of the story, I'm about to fail the story mission. And that's because I guess I don't understand, or I did something wrong on the previous map. And my character quickly becomes infected with a leech, a parasite. Cannot remove it because I don't have an ally to groom me. And then subsequently bleed and die because I have no allies to cure me. And this character only had about 6 days to live anyway. Like, characters, you pet guys, your little monsters, critters, only have so long to live.
Right.
And so I entered this map with a very short amount of time to survive, and then I was immediately infected. And that was it. I died. And I sort of just shrugged and went, well, what was I supposed to do? This is the story mode, right? Like, what was I supposed to do that I've done wrong? The game hasn't really fully explained to me what's happened, how it's happened, and why it's happened. And that really was off-putting for me. And I think you've done the exact same thing as me. You've trashed the game, and now you've realized that now you have to pick story mode and go through the tutorial again, or you have to pick a sandbox.
Right, and I went sandbox because, yeah, like you said, it's like, well, okay, I don't need to know things like click here, click there. I don't need to see the scene again. I just need to score. I was getting to the point, right? I think we were joking about this yesterday because we looked at a few games. Excuse me. And we were laughing at the comment about roguelike. And
Yeah.
I feel like this had one of the tags about being roguelike. And
yeah, it might have. Because to a degree, I know why they would say that.
Because you need to replay it over and over, and you're gonna die unexpectedly sometimes, things like that. Like, it's meant to have just huge replayability.
What's happened in my version is I've restarted the game from the death of my guy, and it said that I've got these 2 new people, and I was absolutely confused. I was like, am I even playing the story anymore? So I tried to start over, and that's where my problems began. But no, I agree on the roguelike thing. This game feels very much like a game where it's meant to be about that interaction, randomness, procedure. But I don't feel like that works to the favor of this game. Because generally speaking, it's called, what is it called? Niche, a genetics game, or genetic survival game. And to me, the purpose of the game should be about forming the family of your creatures and helping them thrive and survive and grow. And I don't feel like the game does that very well because you're spending too much time collecting food. You only have so many actions you can take. You can only do so many things, and each creature takes 1 food per turn. So what you ideally need to do is every turn produce enough food, like 1 food per creature, to maintain your population. Otherwise, you just slowly die. And I don't feel like I got a chance to experience the breeding, the niche, the genetics, because look at all this information.
There's so much, and I noticed at one point I was flicking through these videos. It's funny that we're on this screen at the same time. We obviously got this certain amount of like 12 minutes into the game, and we're like, oh, let's play around with this stuff.
Yeah.
You can see we're both looking through the menus and the tooltips. God, we're not related by any chance, are we? same
this
mentality.
one on my screen, this thing blew my mind, and you're about to click on it too. I don't know. You've got it down the bottom.
I will in a minute.
And I had no idea what this was. I still don't know what this is because the tutorial didn't explain anything about genetics.
And we
it
should
didn't
be
explain
clear,
anything about.
We deliberately picked game, like we said, we're probably not going to stray into early access, at least not yet.
No.
This is a full game. Like if I'm buying it based on its store description, or we got it from Steam, what we're seeing is the game. Like, there's nothing else. In fact, there's no chance of getting any further development on this unless they sell enough to, like, warrant making extra content.
Yeah.
So this is it. So I agree, like, it was awkward. I fumbled my whole time. I'll definitely admit that. It wasn't unfun, but I agree with you. Like, you spend so much time sort of generally living and not actually doing all this stuff that you're doing now.
Yeah, you don't get that chance to experience the genetics mechanic. Now,
And
don't get me wrong, I think if I learned the game, put some time into it, I could pick up on those mechanics. I could figure out how to survive a tribe, maintain a stable population, make tough choices and things like that. Um, I'd be able to make those decisions without losing immediately. And then I'd be able to get into the genetic stuff. But even at that point, I don't know, from what I've seen, the game hasn't explained the genetics, so then I'd have to learn that basically all on my own
right, and so
without.
it's funny because then the question is, well, how long? Yeah, right. Like, so we played 30 minutes. No idea how the genetics, which is probably the major selling point of the game, to be honest. Like,
Yeah,
custom breeding your specific pet or specific tribe or whatever, like mammal, whatever these things are. And we didn't even get into that. So yeah, another half an hour to learn how to survive, sort of more efficiently, and then a bit of time to get used to managing a tribe, and then you get into the genetics. It's like, so we've played this game for good 2 or 3 or more hours before we've actually figured out half the
well,
major core mechanics of the game.
you know what gets me here? Um, and here I just suicide on this ape. I just slowly kill my guys on this ape because I have no idea what's happening. I just try and kill it. I just throw them at it until it walks away because I couldn't figure out how to see how much health it had, um, or anything like that. I had no idea if I was doing damage or anything. But what I was going to say is when I looked at this game and all the preview screenshots, all the animals, the whatever you play as, when you look at the screenshots, they're all quite clustered, quite close, and like on tiles very near each other, even in a group of like 8 or 10. But in one of my runs, I get about 5 of the guys, and if you were losing 5 food per turn, you were in an absolute disaster of a situation. Like, it's not sustainable.
Right.
It's incredibly, like, in this current map I'm on, I probably could have made maybe 5 food per turn. I've got those 3 trees, and I could have got some nuts and whatnot, and maybe on this one I could have done it. But on another map, like on a less forgiving environment, it's just not feasible to have a group of creatures, and it's not feasible to have a group of creatures clustered up that close. And so what I had assumed when looking at the promo content, the screenshots and whatnot, what I'd assumed these creatures actually were like representations of a group of creatures within that environment, and the interactions were not so literal of one creature interacting with another, but of tribes interacting with each other. Not tribes, but packs or things like that. More representative of what they are.
Right.
Whereas the game takes it very much. This is it. This is your one creature, and that was very off-putting for me. I really thought it was going to be about that. This pack, this tribe, this whatever, has a creature with this pack, this representation of a creature in this environment. I guess that's what I'm trying to say is
Yeah,
like a creature.
I
a genus,
thought it would be individuals, but I definitely thought it would be more about growing your pack. And I think if you really, really micromanage hard, you can be more efficient getting food than losing it, like the rate. But the problem is the investment, and getting food is not really that fun when you have to do it every turn. Like, you can see I get to a point
Yeah.
where I have like 4 or 5 dudes, and I just have like 2 people getting food the whole time. They don't do anything else. So it's like, what's the point in having
No.
5? I should just have 3, and then I could move and get a bit of food and be alright. But and the lifespan of the natural lifespan of
Yeah, I was going to
animals
say that
is
as
really
well.
short. I just feel
It does
like
feel
for
very
a game
short.
that you're supposed to be, like, to me, to make it a bit more interesting, you should be like, I want to grow the tribe in a certain way. I want to be proud of this. I want to go towards this. And if your things only live for like 10, 15 ticks, I suppose they're meant to be days, so 15 days or something. It's like, well, I never really got a chance to enjoy the fruits of my labor.
Well, maybe they're meant to represent years, but even then,
yeah, it might be seasons. Maybe that's the.
maybe.
I don't know, but it's like, at one point I get this ability to go underwater, breathe underwater. I find some plant or something that I eat, and I can breathe underwater. Of course, the lifespan on that animal, it might be here somewhere. the lifespan, then like I don't have long enough to get him back to somewhere that he can breed to keep that trait.
Well, one of the things that also got me was when I was looking at, the game, I was like, this looks like a game where your creature goes in the water, or it has water in its environment, in its nearby area, and then it mates with another creature, and the baby that comes out has some sort of water favoritism, like something based off the actual environment it is in. And I kind of expected that to be a part. But as far as I can tell, and again, this is because I didn't get to experience a lot in the game, there was no sort of explanation for this. Like, there was no sort of breeding seemed to be just take traits from your parents. And maybe you can manipulate that somehow. But again, the game didn't tell me how to do that. And, I don't know, was there a help screen somewhere? Was there
I'm not sure. There might have been. I could have probably worked harder. I guess that's the constraint of 30 minutes. Do you see on the bottom screen there? So that's my little bub. He's got a parasite and he's bleeding, but he also can now breathe underwater. And it's like, okay, well, I have like 4 people, but I only have 2 food. So now I'm totally screwed. Now, it's my fault for spreading out, but at the same time, there's only so much food.
You have to find more food.
And if I spend all my time spreading out just enough to find the food, I can't spread out enough to find things like the underwater breathing thing, because there's no food. Like, there's crabs and stuff, but just not enough food. And so I sort of like you, I spent the whole time just surviving and not really exploring the game. I'm not saying you should get to a point where you automatically become self-sufficient, but it definitely could have helped with something like to make it a bit easier. The other thing is the tooltips, like the little on the right hand side of the page where it gives you all the notifications. Some of them don't, like, your creatures die and you get the tiniest little block in the bottom right corner saying, oh, your alpha male died, and you're like, sometimes that would happen. I'd be like, hey, where did he go? And they'd be like, oh, he died. You're like, it just wasn't apparent at the time.
I guess what gets me right is I agree that in a survival game you shouldn't hit a point where you are stable. That's not the purpose of the games. The purpose of the games is to have that, constant need to survive. But that's what this feels like. It feels more like a survival game rather than a genetics game. And the game was sold as more of a genetics game where you have to figure out how to make your people survive. And that's what was really off-putting for me.
I agree. I can see here, so you've got four things, 4 teammates, and you're having trouble with this rogue because of landscape.
Yeah, well, I want to kill him, but he just moved 5 times in one turn.
I mean, there's like stealth and stuff, and you can grow all the traits, but even in your game, have you had time to breed a character that has really good stealth? I'm not sure. And look at this, you're not fighting now because you have to get rid of parasites and stuff. Like, the game needs events, but there's nothing you can do.
Don't get me wrong, I understand that this is a sandbox mode that I've put it on, and that I'm just meant to experience the world as it is, but it feels almost like too much shit is being thrown at me. The game feels like it needs to have a slower pace, where you can sit down and look at it and think through more reasonably, and do maybe more stuff in a turn, rather than the limited number of actions, because it's just insane.
The turns is what gets me. It's not enough to it is sort of not enough to do in a turn. Like, I just feel like I'm forever clicking the turn button, and it's like, well, you need to slow down and think about your actions. It's like, I guess so, but I don't know. I just feel like I'm ticking over the time, whereas I should be really involved in every single turn.
Yeah, it looks like you had the same experience that I did, where the game just moved faster than you expect, and you want to sit down and go, okay, I'm going to plan my next move, I'm going to scout out the environment and go and do this thing, and then you get to do that, and then you go, well, there's nothing I can really do. There's only, so many actions I can take. And I don't know, what's more bothered me is I killed that rogue male, and I didn't get any food for it.
Yeah, all that effort.
And sometimes, and I picked a plant just a moment ago in the water, and it had a little apple symbol, but I didn't get food for it. I got materials or whatever it's called.
You got the ability to breathe underwater, but now your tribe has no
I found but that's what I mean. Like, there was so much about this that was just like, oh, what am I supposed to be doing?
Like,
Can the game explain it to me?
That's the thing. Like, you found a new plant underwater.
Yeah.
And I get that there's a tooltip on the right that's like, yeah, cool. But wouldn't it have been cool if it had been like something had flashed on the screen to tell you what that is?
Yeah.
Because you just like,
See,
I don't realize the significance of digging into that plant underwater unless I specifically find the one little circle or the one little square. And I know what that's there for, but it's like, come on, game. If you can't get excited about me finding this thing, how am I, as the player, supposed to get excited?
here's the thing. No one complained about the civs, civilizations in general, the game. No one complained about the pop-ups in that game. When a tutorial pops up and goes, you've completed your first, farm. This will provide food for your nation. You go, okay, that's what it does. It sort of clicks in your head.
Right.
You don't need it to explain any further than that because it's explained. This game needed something like that where it would go, you found this, you can do this with it. And it's like, oh, okay. But instead of that, there's nothing.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. So we've given a pretty good lashing, but I'll just wrap by saying it is beautiful, a beautiful game. Like, it looks great. I know that we said the in-game graphics don't quite match the heights of the intro cinematic, but it is.
See,
still
I disagree.
Quite nice.
I don't even. I think it's okay, but I'm not very sold on these graphics.
Okay, fair enough. And then gameplay functions smoothly, but like you say, it's not like fun learning. Like, it's not like if you don't learn, you die. And I know this is a survival game, like you said, but yeah, it's a lot of awkward learning to get to the genetics part. So it doesn't quite, like, you kind of need a bit more help, or you need it to be a bit more lenient. Like, there's no easy mode where you use half as much food or anything like that, or you just...
I couldn't even tell you what an alpha is because that was never. It never came up, as far as I know.
When you run out of food, the alpha eats first.
That's what I kind of suspected, but I'd never once seen
Yeah, you just gotta
which
hold-
character
it-
was
that
my
one,
alpha.
Yeah, well, you can change it. I'm pretty sure. That's the point. You can click on it, but it does. Yeah, it doesn't tell you. So.
No.
But anyway, so let's just because we knew this would happen, we ran through this so far. So this is a sort of a no and a no from Patch, and sort of a I would still probably get this game. It's not super expensive, but I think you could have fun with this if you did just like this kind of game where you're just trying things and you don't mind a bit of roguelike restarting.
Yeah.
I think 30 minutes isn't enough to really judge that fully myself. So that's our first two questions. And then lastly, we try and talk about where you get games and genres. Do you get enough information from 30 minutes to decide if they are worth playing or worth keeping or worth going on with, or have you played enough? So what do you think about, say, sandbox or survival genres? Do you think 30 minutes is enough? Compare it to other survival games or other...
Yeah, generally speaking, I think in the first 30 minutes, sandbox survival sort of games, roguelikes, whatever you want to call them, that's where these games shine, is they throw a bare experience of what the whole game is going to be at you in the first 30 minutes, and it's up for you to figure it out. And I don't say that as like a positive thing. I say that as like a sort of a neutral thing. The player should be able to play and learn the game, as they go, reasonably well. And in this case, I found this game didn't do that well.
And it's okay to
I don't
have
know, I guess
what you say, learning and playing smoothly, and then having like a harder mode.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay to do that. Yeah, this was sort of equal parts, I guess, unforgiving, and then it just like unexplained, and it made it really difficult to really enjoy.
Yeah,
I
I do. So you would still recommend this one?
I'm saying, this is my point, is I'm saying that based on the first 30 minutes, I would play more. So I
Okay.
would recommend
No,
it.
fair enough.
But
'Cause,
do
if
I
I-
think, if like, what I was saying is, the second question is always, is 30 minutes enough to judge it? I don't think so. So I would say I would need another hour or two to come back and say, okay, I've done some of the other stuff. So that's what I'm trying to get out of that explanation.
No, I'd definitely say it's enough. What actually bothers me right here, right now, is the way that the game allows other people to move on your turn.
Yeah,
Because
every
I had two
time.
people,
But there's supposed
and I
to be a
couldn't.
stealth element though, and this is the same thing. We didn't get to the genetics part, so we couldn't breed any creatures and give them stealth elements and sneak.
But even if there's a
tracking.
stealth element, how is it fair that for every movement my creatures have, something else moves once? So something I'm hunting, I need to kill it with one creature, or it can just run away.
Yeah.
Like
I'm
that's
sure.
not.
I don't know all the rules for if you engage a fight and they have to stick around, or if they can run or whatever.
Anyway, to cut it short, I just found a lot of things about this game were very frustrating. Mostly the lack of any sort of like guidance, the lack of any sort of information. The fact the tutorial basically gives you 2 levels to teach you how to move, interact, and then make more creatures, and that's it. And then it can I think I made a mistake in the tutorial by sending the Atom creature on, because that's the creature you start with. I think you meant to send the baby of the Atom creature on, because it has the longest lifespan, and you only get to take 1 creature with you. And the game didn't tell me that. It didn't really explain that.
So I was good.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. And then you die, and it's sort of like, oh well, that's
Whoops.
disappointing. But I'd say I was definitely, basically happy to quit.
I enjoyed
So-
it. I would have played more if I played. Obviously, you can see me here. I went for another 5 minutes. So,
Nah.
like I say, I don't feel like I had enough time to judge it. I feel like it was a conflicting game. Like you kind of mentioned on the cuff a minute ago about missed potential. It could have done more. And
Yes.
I couldn't tell how much it had done. You know, like.
If you're a fan of tough survival games,
I think
figuring out
people
these
can
kinds of
enjoy this.
mechanics,
If you like
and-
little cute animals and you just really enjoy the graphics and watching them do things, like I don't know, it has like a, I don't want to say cutesy in a bad way. It has like an element to it, you know, like you have to like lick each other when you've got blood on you and stuff, and you need to stick
I don't know,
together as
'cause-
a pack. Like I can see that sort of thing being entertaining and interesting to someone.
entertaining, but I think the game's too hard for someone who would be
I
into
think-
that kind of thing.
I think it's
Like-
quite difficult.
If that's what you're there for, you can find another game that doesn't require this level of management,
Right.
and isn't this brutal.
It's way too micromanagey, or
Yeah.
you can't do enough. You know what I mean? Like micromanagey, but all you're doing is survival. Yep. All right. Well, we'll call it a wrap there.
Definitely.
Hopefully this is. I don't know. I enjoyed this myself. This whole experience of recording and playing a new game and talking about it for 30, almost 35 minutes now.
Yeah.
But yeah. So this is our second episode in the Just 30 series. I hope people are enjoying it. Obviously, we're just trying to give everyone an idea of if you're not sure if you want to pick up a game, or we picked up a game for you, or what do you think of that? So if you're seeing this and you have any other ideas or any other games that we could try, or do a bit of this, because the cool thing is we have the 2 screens, so we both get different experiences, and you might be able to find, oh, that would be like me, sort of out of that. If you have any other ideas or things like that, let us know, and we might give it a go, eh?
Yeah.
Any parting words, Patch?
No. Hope you liked our talk.
Alright, thanks for that, everyone. We will see you guys next time. See ya.
See ya.